Thank Reb Tzvi Bloom for an unbelievable Shabbos, besides for what just happened the last 2 minutes. I'm very humbled to be here. We're around giants that really I've never been exposed to. B'shus the Rosh Yeshiva, of course. I want to really talk about, though, something that really no one really is focused on this weekend. We're all focused on what really Torah Umesorah does best, dealing with the kids of our generation. However, I want to speak about what happens after they graduate. What happens after they leave the hands of Torah Umesorah? What happens when they get married? What happens when they start working? What happens to the ruchnius level of that group? The largest group of Klal Yisrael are the working men, are the Balabatim. If you take them all together, they're the largest category of Klal Yisrael. Yet when it comes to their spiritual ruchnius level, they're the least spoken about, they're the least focused on. And one big Rav told me, you take the largest group of Klal Yisrael, you take the Balabatim, and you take the most powerful weapon that Klal Yisrael has, which is the learning, the fire of Torah, and you put them together, and that's when you could change Klal Yisrael. You could change the ruchnius level of Klal Yisrael. I told him, Balabatim, ruchnius level, Balabatim are not known for their ruchnius. Balabatim are known for their gashmius. Balabatim are not known for their fire of Torah. We don't speak about Balabatim that way. We don't talk about Balabatim that way. So tonight, I want to change the perception that the world has when it comes to Balabatim and the learning of Torah. I want to change the perception that Balabatim have amongst themselves when it comes to the learning of Torah. That learning on a serious level, the ligging and learning, the loving learning, the passion of learning, that's for the yeshiva days. That's for the kollel. But once I start working, it's okay to go to a shmooze, go to a shir a few times a week, check the box. We have to understand that to feel that power and to feel that change, the Balabatim need to taste the Torah. It's not enough to know that Torah is the most important thing. And it's not even enough for the Balabatim to support Torah. Of course, that is the most unbelievable zechus we can have, but that's not enough to have the power. The Balabatim, the working men, need to taste that. It's not enough to know candy is sweet. But once you taste that candy, it's addicting, it's unstoppable. The first thing, though, is we need to have the mindset that working men could be in learning, that working men can have the fire of Torah. But the first step is that we need to change the culture. I remember the way Hashem made it, I was on a Pesach program in this hotel, and there was 300 men there, 300 Balabatim, and they made a base midrash. It happens to be in the villa that I'm sleeping in this weekend. Only Hashem can make it this way. And I went to that base midrash, and who did I see there? Yeshiva boys, Ben Asmanim, learning. Where's all the men? So I said, maybe they're at the daf. 10 guys at the daf. What's going on over here? I went home, I went to the Rosh Yeshiva. I said, what is going on? Is this a crisis? And he said, you don't know? Every kollel young girl height that's ready to go out to work is shaking, pachad padachadim, because every friend that left kollel, that's left kollel on a serious level, learning with the brain, is now barely learning or learning on a very superficial level. I went to another Rosh Yeshiva. I said, is this true? He said, thousands, not hundreds, thousands of working men have not opened up a Gemara since they left yeshiva, or just doing it to check a box. It's the biggest mystery of Klal Yisrael. You look at them one day, they leave Kollel, it's excited, loving and learning, ligging and learning, passionate about learning. And you look at them a year later, totally changed. As if it's not for them. No more. We have to understand that Balabatim have that power. We have to understand that if we could give the Balabatim that fire, it could change everything. I remember I went when I was working, so I wanted to go learn. For whatever reason, I had to work for the family business. And I went to the Rav, my Rav. And I said, I want to go learn. He goes, I'm sorry. Right now, for whatever reason it is, you have to work. But I'm going to give you an eight that you should never forget. When you work like a balabas. But when you learn like a bacher. Not like the balabatim that we're used to. Not like the way we have is in our mind. That the days are over. All we have is to give. Of course we need to give. But to give the most. And to give the most to Klal Yisrael. We need to be in it. We need to taste that sugar again. Once we taste that sugar, it's addicting. We're unstoppable. And we can change everything. The yeshiva system. So Big Rub came to me. He says, you know how many boys are not motivated today? You know what competition they have today? Because you know who could change that? The Balabatim. The Balabatim could change the motivation of Bachrim. He says, think of what goes on. The Mashkichim, the Rosh Hashivas, they scream all day long to these boys, Kihem Chayenu V'Orech Yameinu. Torah is everything. The world was created for learning on the highest level. And then what do? They go home for Shabbos. And the most respected man in their life, their father, they never saw with the Gemara. They had no shaykhis to steiging and learning. You know what that does to that bacher? You know what that does to all the shmoozes they heard? Now think about, what if for that weekend they come home and they see their father after the Friday night meal take out a Gemara and sing the learning and loving the learning and passion, running to that Gemara. You know that what that would do to that boy? Goes to shul before mincha the next day, sees a man in the corner. Who's that father steiging away? That's my dad. You know that would do to Klal Yisrael? If we up the standards of the Balabatim and learning, then the Kolim will up their standards. The Balabatim no shas, the Kolim will up their standards. And if the Kolim up their standards, you know what that would do to Klal Yisrael? And the Rebbeim would steig, because if the Rebbeim, the other ones in Chinuch would have to steig more. And you know what that would do to Klal Yisrael? Who meets the most non-frum Jews? Kiruv Rechokim. It's the Balabatim. Every day, like we heard this afternoon. If you have a man filled with the fire of learning, it's addicting. It's mashpia. So we need to understand the power. The most powerful thing that we have is the learning of Torah. We have to understand that it's for us. It's not just to support. The same excitement, the same love that we had in yeshiva has to be transferred. We have to revive the Balabatim. We have to change that mindset. But how? How do we do that? How do we get them to taste it again? How do we get them to feel that connection again? And then there was a revolution. And perhaps this was the answer. Because what I'm talking about tonight is not a theory. It's not an idea. This was tried and tested. And I'm here to share with you a solution. There was a revolution for yeshiva bachers. as we all know, with Rabbi David Newman, called Vaharevna. Rabbi Newman, along with many, many Rebbeim, go see their kids in the school. They're not the Aleph kids. We're not talking about the Aleph kids. The Aleph kids are taken care of. The Mitzuyanim are taken care of. We're not talking about them. What about the Beis and Gimel kids? What about them? And he would go into yeshivas like many Rebbeim. And he would say, these kids don't like Gemara. What do we do about it? He went to Rav Nosson Tzvi, so went to Rav Nosson Tzvi Finkel, and he says, how do you get a bacher to love learning? Without learning, we're nothing. Our whole nation is about learning. And we're talking about a guy graduating high school already, 12th grade. And he said, there's one way. Chazara, 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 and then more chazara. Let this bacher taste the Gemara by owning that Gemara. Let him taste that Gemara, the sweetness of Torah, by owning it in the bones. By reviewing it again and again and again and again. And what he came out with was he would interview yeshiva boys in 12th grade. And at the beginning of the year, he asked them, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you like Gemara? 10 being the biggest, the best thing in the world in your life. 1 being the worst thing in the world, the most suffering, the most torture. And what he found was shocking. And he could show it to you. He has 1,000 cards as the bacher filled out in the beginning of the year. You know what the average number was? 3. 2, 3s, and 4s. 1,000. And he tells them, I am going to show you the light of learning. I'm going to show you that sweetness of learning. Because if you do reviewing and one more time and another, and you get that Hamsechta, and you own that, and you own that power, and you own that sweetness, and you own that, and you taste that, it becomes you. I guarantee you money down that you will change those numbers. And they do it. And by the next year, by the next few months, by the next year, what number do you love Gemara? He asked them after you do the system. And from 2s, 3s, and 4s become 8, 9s, and 10s. Because when you own Torah, there's nothing better, there's nothing sweeter. So we said like this, could this be our solution? Could we take this concept of ownership, and could we take this idea and bring it to Balabatim? Because we analyze who understands ownership more than Balabatim? Who understands owning something more than working men? The working man, he owns buildings, he owns businesses, he owns houses, he owns cars. He knows what it is to own, he knows what it feels to own, he knows what it takes to own. All his day is about owning more money. That's his job, that's his day. He understands ownership much more than the bacher. So if we could take this concept of owning that they do all day, because we said it cannot be, and we said, listen, let's take it and let's apply it to Balabatim, and let's make them own their learning too. Let's make them own their Gemara too. Because we said, you know why they might not be Matzliach? You know why? Because how can you take a Gvir? How can you take a Balabait, buy a Balabas, and in the office all day long, owning, and then he comes to a shiur and he's a bystander. Who can stand for that? Who enjoys that? So if we make the Balabas an owner in learning too, perhaps this could give them the fire that they need. If we make the Balabas an owner in their learning, perhaps this is the solution to bringing back Balabatim learning on a real level, with the fire, with the passion, with the love. So we came out with this concept. Rabbi Newman came out with this idea. It's called Kinyan Hamsechta, to own the Hamsechta. We took the Balabatim, and we took this concept, the accomplishment that he will feel when he owns, And what can you own? What bigger thing can you own than learning than a Masechta? So we made this concept, or Newman made this concept of 3 steps. Number 1, the Chazara system, owning your Torah, Chazara, more Chazara, owning it. But that wouldn't be enough. How do you get them to Chazar? So we made number 2, B'nei Chabura. Not like other shiurs where a 93-year-old man is sitting next to a 12-year-old and a 23-year-old and a 63-year-old. We combined guys that they don't only learn together, but they could grow together, same ages, same lifestyles, same neighborhoods. We needed them to be part of something, not just come to a shiur one and done, not just go in and out and over. Balabatim need to be part of something. So besides the learning system, who are they learning with? And number 3, the Rosh Chabura. Not any guy, not any Ilui. Handpicked. Who can not only care and love, because every Balabas needs a Rebbe also. A shul Rebbe of 200 is not going to do it. So how do you get this handpicked Rosh Chabura? Who loves their Talmidim, who loves the Bnei Chabura, who invests in them out of the shiur. He's responsible for their ruchnius and also to create that atmosphere of a family. There's a special fund to get the wives involved. We sent flowers to the wives and chocolates. Buy chulent and sushi and whatever else they need. Siyams are spent the way Balabatim know how to celebrate. But we're creating a matzav where Balabatim feel they're part of something, and if they just plug themselves and they get that taste and they're able to chazar the way that we saw the success before, then the rest is history. History will be changed. So we wanted to see, will this theory work? And what we saw was beyond our imagination, beyond our understanding. And it looked like we cracked the code. We saw Balabatim that never opened up a Gemara out loud. Either they were in a shiur silently, inconsistent. All of a sudden, they wouldn't miss it for the world. Stories started pouring in beyond what we would hear of Gedolim. Chazar is finishing the Masechtas 10, 15 times. Sukkah's Cholamoid goals. What's your Sukkah's goals with the average guy? 60 daf, 70 daf. Plane rides were everyone dreads plane rides. They couldn't wait to get on the plane. 15 daf on the plane. Labor rooms, jogging, dentist chairs. They mastered this Masechta. We have stories. One story, anything they were learning Sukkah, anything that reminded them about Sukkah. Sukkah about, this is untapped, this is about that, this is regular Balabatim. One story, an article, a writer for the Mishpacha magazine saw this group of Balabatim, Kinyan Hamsechta. And he said, I want to test you. How many times does it say this word? He threw out a word in the Masechta. So one of the Balabatim there says, twice. Untapped, Daf Nun Daled. So he didn't know. He checked the Bar Ilan, CD, and he saw that it was written really 3 times. But he was very impressed. The guy got 2 out of 3. So he went to the Balabas. He goes, I'm so impressed. 2 out of 3 times, amazing. Because the Bar Ilan's wrong. No question. Well, come on, it's a computer. I know better. I chazed it better. They brought a Gemara, they found out the Bar Ilan sister was wrong. The Balabas knew it better. We have stories of chaburas when they have to go to weddings. Balabatim usually have a charusa, and what happens? Tuesday night's a wedding, Thursday night's a wedding, Sunday night's a wedding, and then they end up learning once or twice. These guys never miss. But there was one time that the whole chabura had a wedding. Do you know what they did? They gave shir at the wedding. When there's love, there's nothing can stop you. Or the Torah on Tisha B'Av, my favorite one. That just like you're not allowed to eat on Tisha B'Av, you're also not allowed to learn Gemara. So while everyone's running to break the fast, there's one balabas that took a picture on the Chabur chat, and he wrote, "I'm breaking the fast," with a picture of Sukkah. And then an hour later, he takes a picture of the food, and he writes, "This is my dessert." When there's a love of learning, but besides the stories, and there's millions of them, there's hundreds of them, it's like the faucet, there was no water coming down, you turn the faucet on, and the water doesn't stop. But besides these stories, for every member of the 40 chaburas that there are, with over 300 people, besides the wild stories, besides the 5 daf while he's drilling his teeth, besides the 10 daf while he's jogging, there's a simchas hachayim, there's a simchas hatorah, there's an elevated life, there's an elevated home. There's a clarity of life that never was had before. So I wish I could call tonight all the Rosh Chaburas here. I wish I could call them all up to testify. Ask them, Avi Shron in the crowd, Rav Duvi Kessner. These are also, we don't just get the Avrechim, we get Chashva Balabatim also. Talk to them. Ask them, Shavuos night, before and after Kinyan Masechta. Beyond understanding. How was Shavuot night before Kinyan Masechta? Falling asleep, hard to stay up. How was Shavuos night after Kinyan Masechta? What did you do tonight? Imagine you go, guy, how was your Shavuos night? 20 daf. 15, 20 daf. Unthinkable. Balabatim. But that could be the new Klal Yisrael. I wish I could call up all the Bnei Chabura to testify on how their life has changed, on how their home has changed. But I can't. So I'm going to read you one letter that we got, because these guys don't know what to do with themselves. They don't know what all of a sudden we revived them. They don't know what to do with themselves, so they write letters to Rabbi Newman. And one man wrote a letter, and he said he was almost 40 years old, and he realized after yeshiva he never succeeded, like most of the Balabatim. And Purim night, the power of Purim, he went into the shul, and he went into the Aron Kodesh when no one was there, and he cried his heart out. Hashem, please help me. Connect me back. I want to get back to Torah. I want to get back. I want to be a Talmid Chacham. And a few months later, he was introduced to Kinyan Masechta, and he writes, Hashem answered my prayers, and he said, yes, it could happen. And he said from them he didn't miss a shiur. He chazed all day long. He said he would learn with his son. His son would ask him, could we learn, Daddy, could we learn? What do you want? Let's learn Sukkah. All of a sudden he would say the second parak of Sukkah, Shachar V'tar Ba'al Peh. He said one night, I'll read you this part. One Friday night, I reviewed many, again, let's not forget who we're talking about. This guy never learned before. And once he left yeshiva, on a serious level. One Friday night, I reviewed many dafim of Gemara. When I finished, I went into the kitchen of my house. Everyone was sleeping. I started to dance with such great feeling. I never believed that there was really something called Masikas HaTorah, sweetness of Torah. I couldn't believe it was a real thing for working men until now. If the whole program was made just for me, it was all worth it. But I imagine that you have hundreds of men learning like this. If I could call all the wives of all the Bnei Chabur up here to testify, I wish I could. They would say, my husband's a different husband. My house is a different house. But I'll read you one letter from a wife. Imagine your wife talking like this. Imagine the wives of the Balabat of Klal Yisrael talking like this. That my husband may support the family may support the family financially, but Kinyan Hamsechta makes it now that he supports the family in Ruchnius too. He's now setting a tone in our home where Torah is the Iker, and knows that without his learning, his parnasa means nothing. Kinyan Hamsechta keeps it strong. I wish I could call all the children of the Bnei Chabura, how they see their father singing and learning, passionate learning. But I can't. So I'm going to read you one 15-year-old beauty from Muncie called Benny Deutsch. When he's talking at his father see him, he doesn't say, Mazel Tov, Dad, for finishing the Masechta. He says, Mazel Tov for making a Kinyan on the Masechta. And imagine your son talking. Imagine the sons of Klal Yisrael Balabatim talking like this about their father. That my father, his goal, he made something I thought he was impossible. Sukkos Chol HaMoed, his goal. This is a son talking about his father. A working man, a successful working man. He says, my father made a Kabbalah to Chazer 60 daf on Chol HaMoed. He goes, I thought it was impossible. But not only did he do it, he did it with love. And he said he had a business meeting in France. And he had meetings all day long. So I thought, okay, he would go to sleep after a long day of work. And he said, my father stayed up till 2 a.m. chazering his Gemara with love. But the most unbelievable thing he said at the end, he said, and finally, Abba, I see you so happy, which of course affects our whole house. You bring such simcha to all of us. Kinyan Masechta changed my father's life. The Simchas Hatorah, the Balabatim that have that simcha, that kinyan, that happiness, they're going to give more. They're going to do everything greater, everything more elevated. We need to change the culture of tide of Klal Yisrael. But we can't stop. We need to understand that it doesn't have to stop at 40 chaburas. Every shul, now that we know it works, 50, 20,000 a chabura, every shul should have a chabura. It's time to bring Kinyan to Klal Yisrael. It's time to change Klal. For sure, Klal Yisrael was changed for these 40 groups. But now that we see it works, it's time to change this tide of Klal Yisrael. We have to believe in the power of the Balabatim, the power of Kinyan. This Wednesday, we're having the first Asifa for Kinyan and Hamsechta. 300 men together. You know what they're doing at the Kinyan for an hour and a half? They're learning. They're just learning and dancing. That's the power of learning. So we have to understand the power of Balabatim, combined with the power of Torah. And Bezrat Hashem, Mashiach will come to a new Klal Yisrael. A Klal Yisrael Balabatim not only learned for their Gashmias for sure, and not only learning for the unbelievable giving of Torah, but unbelievable levels of learning Torah themselves. And with that, Klal Yisrael will be a new Klal Yisrael. Bezrat Hashem, Mashiach will come that day, and Klal Yisrael should be that changed Klal Yisrael.